Most women over 60 believe giving more is what keeps a man close. I believed that too for nearly 2 decades, right up until I turned 63. Cook his favorite meal every night. Answer every text within a minute. Never once say no. That was my definition of being a good partner, and it nearly cost me my marriage, though I did not see it happening for years. Somewhere in my 60s, I learned something nobody had ever warned me about. Trying harder is not what makes a man fall for you. It is often exactly what makes him stop feeling anything at all. There are 2 feelings, only 2, that actually make an older man fall hard for you and want to stay. I only understood them the year I almost lost the one person I could not imagine my life without. Neither one has anything to do with how much you give him. Tonight, we are going to look closely at something almost every piece of dating advice out there gets wrong. What emotions actually make a man fall in love? 1. Emotionally ahead. There is a pattern that comes up constantly in couples therapy. Sue Johnson, a clinical psychologist and founder of emotionally focused therapy, calls it the pursuer-distancer dynamic. One partner moves toward connection, the other pulls back. And the harder the first partner pushes, the further the second one retreats. It is not because he does not care. It is because there is nothing left for him to reach for. I did not know this pattern had a name until my 60s. He only knew what it felt like from the inside, standing in my own kitchen at midnight, watching my wife plan our entire future out loud while I stood there with my coffee going cold, saying almost nothing. She was not doing anything wrong. She loved me, and it showed in every sentence. But every time she moved a step closer, I felt myself take a step back. And I could not explain why, not even to myself. Nobody tells you what happens when you're always the one who's emotionally ahead. Ahead with the feelings, ahead with the plans, ahead with the decision that this relationship matters. When you're always the one closing the distance, there's no distance left for him to close. A man, whatever his age, needs some distance to walk across. That walk isn't a game. It's how he tells himself, and eventually tells you, that this is real. I want to be direct about this, because women of my wife's generation were taught the opposite for decades. Taught that showing up more, caring more, doing more was the mark of a good partner. Nobody warned them that constant closeness can quietly starve a man of the one thing his heart still needs, the feeling that he chose this, that he walked toward it himself. Think about the last time you found yourself checking your phone, wondering why he had not texted back. Ask yourself honestly, who has been carrying this relationship forward, step by step, for months, maybe years? If it has mostly been you, that is not a flaw in your character. It is simply a gap that has quietly closed itself, one thoughtful gesture at a time, until there was no room left for him to step into. That space you keep closing is the space he was supposed to walk through himself. If leaving space is only half the answer, you might be wondering what fills it instead. There is a very specific feeling that grows in that space, one most of us men never learn to name until much later in life. 2. Earning you. Picture a Sunday afternoon. A man spends 3 weekends restoring an old wooden bench, sanding every edge himself, staining it twice because the first coat came out uneven. The wood is nothing special, pine bought cheap from a hardware store. When it is finished, he will not sell it for anywhere near what it is actually worth. He prices it far too high, not because the bench changed, because his labor changed how he sees it. This has nothing to do with playing hard to get. Games are calculated, planned in advance, designed to manipulate someone. What I am describing is not that at all. When a man has to make some effort to reach you, plan the call, wait a little for your reply, hold a small amount of patience before you say yes. Something in him starts building this relationship the way that bench got built, piece by piece, with his own hands in it. Hand him everything instantly, and there is no bench. There is only a fact he did not build, and facts he did not build rarely move a man the way love is supposed to. For a man past 60, earning rarely looks like chasing, answering a little slower, letting him suggest the second dinner instead of you, letting a question sit for a day before you reply. Small things. Each one hands him back a piece of the bench. I know this sounds almost backwards, giving less to receive more. It is not backwards. It is simply how investment works inside a human heart. We protect what has cost us something. We stop noticing what has cost us nothing. So ask yourself honestly about the man in your life right now. What has he actually had to build with his own hands to be with you? Earning you is only one half of what keeps him close. The other half shows up the moment he starts to wonder what life would look like without you in it. 3. Fear of losing you. How many funerals have you been to in the last 10 years? Take a moment. Actually count them. An old friend from work, a sister, maybe a husband from an earlier marriage, or a version of your own husband you had to slowly say goodbye to before the final goodbye ever came. By 60, most of us have already lost something we thought we would keep forever. A parent. 30 years of a career that once defined us. A knee that used to run marathons without a second thought. Loss stops being an idea. It becomes a fact you have lived through more than once. This is exactly why the fear of losing a partner hits differently after 60. A 25-year-old imagines loss, somewhere far off, theoretical. A 65-year-old remembers it, down to the specific ring of a phone at an hour no phone should ring. Down to the chair at the table that stayed empty for the first time. I hear this from women in this community more often than you might think. They wake in the middle of the night just to listen for his breathing. They could not tell you exactly why. After decades together, they still do it. They just do. You check on him a little more than you used to. You notice an empty chair faster than you once did. You hold his hand a beat longer at the door, without quite knowing why. I do not think this fear is something to manage away, or fix, or apologize for. I think it is proof of how much living you have already done. Young love is often blind to loss, simply because it has not met it yet. Ours rarely gets that luxury. That is not a weakness in you, that is depth. That fear you sometimes feel late at night, the quiet kind, is not a flaw in you. It is evidence of everyone you have loved well enough to miss. That fear can drive you to hold on tighter, to give even more of yourself just to feel safe. But there is a very fine line between holding on out of love and holding on out of fear, and it is worth learning where that line actually sits. 4 nice versus kind. Being kind and being nice are supposed to be the same thing. Everyone tells you that. They are not. Picture 2 women, each told no by a friend who cancels dinner plans at the last minute. One says, "That's all right, I understand," and means it completely. The other says the exact same words and spends the rest of the evening quietly hurt, telling herself she is fine. From the outside, both look gracious. Only one of them actually is. Kindness comes from a full cup. It says no when no is the honest answer. It says yes when yes is the honest answer, without flinching either way. Niceness comes from a cup that is afraid of running empty. It says yes to keep the peace. It says yes so nobody gets upset. It says yes even when the honest answer was no, and quietly resents it later. After decades as a wife, a mother, sometimes an employee who had to smooth over everyone else's mood before her own, niceness becomes almost automatic. Nobody trained you to do this on purpose. Life did it slowly, one small accommodation at a time, until saying yes stopped feeling like a choice at all. Watch what niceness does inside a relationship after 60. You start answering questions the doctor asked him. You start reminding him to take a pill he could set a reminder for himself. You start speaking for two people at once. Somewhere in that process, he stops being your partner. He starts being your patient. A partner chooses you back. Be patient simply receives you. I have watched this shift happen in marriages that looked perfectly fine from the outside, and I can tell you it rarely announces itself. It just accumulates, one kind gesture at a time, until kindness has quietly become a job. Notice, this week, which one you are actually being to him. Not out of guilt, out of honesty. Once you can finally see the difference between the two, the next question becomes practical. What does choosing kindness over niceness actually look like, day to day, at this stage of your life? D5, ready after 60. Right now, on an ordinary Tuesday, your calendar probably has more open space in it than it has in 30 years. No school pickup, no performance review looming, maybe no boss at all anymore. That space is not empty time to fill. It is room you have finally earned. Look around your kitchen at 10 in the morning on any weekday. Nobody urgently needs you right this second. That quiet used to feel like loneliness. At this stage, it can just as easily feel like freedom, depending on what you decide to do with it. This is exactly why this advice sounds simple and yet lands so hard for younger women. Let him come to you. Keep your own life full. Hold your standards without apologizing for them. At 25, that advice fights against a biological clock, a career still being built, a life still under construction. Ian, at 65, you are the life already built. Say yes to the pottery class before he even calls. Keep the Thursday dinner with your sister sacred. Let a text sit unanswered for an hour while you finish your book. None of this pushes him away. It simply proves you were never waiting on him to begin with. I do not think this window opens for many women twice. Nobody needs to hand you permission to use it. You already have it, and you have had it for longer than you realized. Two feelings, that is all it really comes down to. The feeling of earning you, the fear of losing you. Everything else we talked about tonight, the kindness, the boundaries, the space you protect, exists only to protect those two. You do not need to perform love at 60. You simply need to leave enough room for it to be chosen, freely, on purpose, by someone who still gets to choose. If there is one thing I hope stays with you tonight, let it be this. You already have everything he needs to fall for you again. Tell me honestly in the comments, what is one thing you stopped chasing and started trusting since turning 60?